Laurie, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Absolutely.
So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was about a week and a half in, and we were trying to figure it out. How did you ultimately make it through that time period, and how did it affect your work and the way that you live life now in 2025?
So prior to 2020, I had a booming music business, producing musicals, producing music for corporate events was really our big thing. And of course, all of that came to a halt. It came to a stop. And it made me really go within and say, what's important? If I can never go back to this, what is important here? And I really started to lean into more of the spirituality, more of the sharing my light, everything that had started to come through me, like by 2013 kind of on, became just very, very important to me. And I was so grateful for the time to go within and to really get clear on who I was and what I was here to do.
So let's get into exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, sixth graders. It's career day. The kid in the back of the room is curious and is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
So I'm a medium and I'm an intuitive. So first off, I can work as a traditional medium where I bring through spirits of people's loved ones who have passed. And then I also go deeper and we work in energetic healing and really getting to work with people's limiting beliefs and all of their stories and all of their conditions that are keeping them feeling kind of small. And maybe it's this false sense of bravado they have, but underneath they're very, very feeling like their light is really small. And we go in and we find out what those stories are, what those conditions are, what they've been taught that's not true. We tell ourselves so many stories that are not true, and we just get clear on that so that we can start to expand that light of who we are and how we share in the world. And we want that light to be generative. We want it to be generative for ourselves and we want it to be generative for others. So it's so important to find out what stories are keeping us in those not enoughs and those limiting beliefs.
So what did you want to be in the sixth grade? What was your dream life?
I wanted to be a concert pianist.
Okay, very cool. So you're obviously good at the piano?
Yeah, I have my degree in piano and I taught piano for many years. And music is super, it was the thing I would say that got me through. It was always that thing that you could go to. And what I realized was it was really that place where my guides were connecting to me, where I felt at home.
I'm listening to a podcast about the therapeutic nature of music and how people that are almost infirmed with Alzheimer's can hear a song and totally wake up. In fact, there was a segue they were talking about with Gabby Giffords, who was the congresswoman that was shot in what year was that? It was in the early 2000s, and how to learn how to speak again, the part of her brain that knew speech, she had to sing things to teach her other side how to speak. And it was interesting how just how music works and how it washes over us and makes everything better. um
It truly is medicine. I
yeah,
love how Geraldine Glass talks about music as medicine
yeah,
and how it can take us to those places that nothing else can take us to.
it's amazing. And that was
Mhm.
the other thing they were talking about, like, is this like, when you think about the realms of like Darwinianism and evolution, like, is this was has music been ingrained to in us, in our DNA, way before we were even conceptualizing it, because of such therapeutic ways that it does work in our brains? It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back at any of the indigenous cultures all over the world, they have musical instruments. They used music. They used chanting. It just puts you into a different place in your brain. And also looking at like the pyramids of Egypt and how the sounds are created within the inner chambers. Music and sound is so important to us. And everyone will tell you that they can remember lyrics like they come back to them so easily. It's kind of like it's in this different little compartmentalized place in our brain that brings us to the present moment. We're
Yeah.
not thinking about the past, we're not worrying about the future, we're just in the music. And coming into that present moment is where we find our magic.
So what's been one of the best live shows that you've ever seen? Live concerts?
My number one was I was about 19 years old and I saw Billy Joel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I saw him. It was a birthday of mine in Kansas City. But when I was a kid, and this is a true story, since my dad grew up in Long Island, um, so my dad's sister was married to a Billy Joel relative, and we used to get autographs, slicks when we were kids. And it didn't last long. It ended in divorce and all of that. But anyway, it was interesting. But he is amazing, um, and I know he just had a big run at Madison Square Garden. He's still after it, so it's great that he's still out there.
Something about him playing Root Beer Rag will
Yeah,
stay with me forever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's solid. So let me ask you this. Take me back to the beginnings of your life and how you got this sense, this intuitive sense to communicate on the other side, to be keen to spirits. How did all of this kind of evolve into your life from being a concert pianist to where you're at today?
So, like right back at the beginning, very early on, I spent the first couple of my years in the hospital because they didn't know what was wrong with me. Turned out to be celiac disease, but in the late 60s, nobody knew anything about it. And so I was connected to the angels. The angels were my friends. And I was always talking to spirit. Got to be about 4 or 5 years old, and the family started to think it wasn't so cute anymore. I was going to go to school. So I learned to shut it down. And shutting it down really, honestly, it was shut down for a long time. It was like I had this inner world where I knew I could connect, and sometimes things would come out, but I kept it very separate and I went down my music career instead. Yet, when I was playing, I was completely connected. It was like this inner, yeah, it was like this inner world that I didn't share, if that makes sense.
And I know that when I talk to a lot of people that understand how the other side works, it's all about how you open yourself up to it. Because if you do, you can see it. And I'm always warned that it's not this special thing. But is it? I mean, how do you view the gift that you have to see this?
I believe we're all mediums. I believe we can all connect. I believe it comes down to worthiness and it comes down to the stories that we tell ourselves. And that not only can we connect, we're meant to connect. We're meant to continue our relationships. Of course, they continue in different ways once someone has passed, but they continue in ways that are so magical. And when we look at how grief illiterate our society is, if everyone knew that they could connect and tune into their people once they've passed, that's going to absolutely revolutionize how we feel grief in our society.
How dangerous is the Ouija board?
There's certain things that I've never used a Ouija board. I've never
Okay.
been interested in it. There's certain things that you can just feel, you know, maybe that's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it when I was a kid, and it was the first time that I saw anything move that I was like, what's going on? And then later on, I did it for my stepson, and it got really weird. Like at one point, it got to the point where it was like there was a kid that was on a slave ship and he wanted something else. And I pulled away and I did some
Yeah.
research and found out that it's a real middling ground of kind of snake oil kind of things going on where they want to kind of pull in to this side and just kind of things can go south really quick. So, I
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
important to set the intention. I'm always, I want to connect with the highest beings that will bring the highest healing and light for everyone in the situation. I did early on when I was opening back up, I did connect into an energy once that didn't feel like it had my best interests in mind. And I just said to my angels, like, that's your job to filter that for me. I don't want to ever connect into anything like that again. And so it's all about our intention and our beliefs. If we believe that we're going to go in and connect with something that's not going to have our best interests in mind, maybe we need to examine why we have that belief.
So, there's a lot of people out there that have gone through grief and loss, and there's spirits that used to be in their lives that aren't anymore. And it would be nice to tap into that. But what is a telltale sign that someone should approach you or somebody that can help them communicate and figure things out? What's the right intention, as you mentioned, and what is the right scenario for this to happen?
You know, if you're at a point where you're open and you're curious and you're looking to change the way that you view that relationship, a lot of people will come to me and say, you know, I don't want to connect to them, or they don't want to come through because I haven't forgiven them. That's such a big thing. And once someone has passed, and it's up to us to do the forgiveness work. And then once we can connect and that connection is clear, then they're it's so easy to hear them. And some people hear them, some people see them, some people will feel them, some people will get signs. Like it's just about, are you willing to go beyond your perceptions of, I don't know how many times I hear it, I can't wait till I see you again, or we'll meet again, or I'm going to spend, 30 years without you, but then I'll get to see you again. Well, why do we have that belief? Why can't we connect right now?
Yeah. So, the one thing about life, whether it's profession or personally, sometimes we wonder, what are we doing? What benefit is this? Why are we continuing to do these things, no matter what it is? In your life of being a medium and seeing the spirit world, have you ever had that moment where you've questioned why this is happening and then you had a sign, a client or something happen in your life where you're like, now it makes sense. I'm galvanized in what I'm doing.
I'd say there's a lot of questions in there, and many times, they always show me that no matter how we cross, whether it was our decision or whether someone took that decision away from us, or it was it was an injury or an illness, no matter how we cross, no matter what we think we've done in this life, we are met with love. We are met with pure love, pure support, pure healing. And so they really show me that what's important is finding that huge step that takes time to love ourselves,
Yeah.
and to love ourselves deeply, all of the parts of ourselves, that inner child work, that shadow work, just truly loving ourselves as they love us. And then when we get to that vibration, that connection becomes much, much easier. And we love and trust ourselves, and we love and trust others, and we love and trust that we're meant to connect and that they have so much to share with us.
So many times I'll talk to therapists when I ask them what's like the silver lining, the number one thing with clients, and it's always that we're hard on ourselves. We're the
Mhm.
ones that will beat ourselves up, and when we get over that, like with what you just said, then you can kind of open up the door to a lot of healing and a lot of good things.
Yeah, life becomes really quite magical and quite um, magnetic. You magnetize experiences towards you when you've dealt with that. We all have all those coulda, woulda, shouldas and if thens. And when we come back and we work through them and we think, okay, now I can just be present instead of sending all of my energy back to the past and then having it be scary for my future. We just come into that space of love, of self-compassion and self-kindness, and that inner critic gets a chance to go bother someone else.
So do so do we have an angel that follows us around from the time we're born to right now, or do we acquire them over time? How does that work?
So every religious tradition, every will have angels. That's a commonality in all of the. Even if we go back to the Vedic writings, as far back as we can go, there are angels. And many people will believe that we have one guardian angel that is with us. Sometimes they will show me different aspects of that, and like our guardian angel is almost like a higher aspect of ourselves. There's different ways that it can be shown. And then we have different angels that come in at different times depending on what we're working through or what we need support with.
Who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational figure in your life that's helped you do the work that you do and become who you are today?
Sonia Choquette, she's an intuitive, and
Yeah.
I've worked with her for like I think since 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can meet anybody on the planet right now that you find inspirational or fascinating that might help you on your journey, who would that be?
Hmm. I really love the work of Estelle Bingham right now.
Yeah.
She's got a new book out, and her work going through the heart and healing everything through our hearts is really compatible to what I do. And I would love to meet her. And then Harry Connick Jr. Man, I'd love to sit down with that guy.
Tried to get an interview with him, and he is just almost unattainable. But it's wild watch because obviously in Kansas City we were all glued to the TV for the Super Bowl, but just to see how far he's come because he was a child prodigy, he's been around forever. I mean, that talk about an old soul. That guy has it.
Yeah. And he has
So
the humor whenever you see
yes,
him,
he
right?
has everything. Yeah. So let me ask you this: you're dealing with some heavy things with
Mhm.
dealing with the spirit world and being a medium. How do you separate that, or does it get separated? How do you take care of yourself, your life, your family, your existence, and then separate this other world of people that have these questions that you need to help lead them through? How does that work for you?
So very early on in working with Sonia Choquette, she said, it takes a very old soul to go into the depths of someone else's pain and not lose themselves. And she said, you were given this gift. So I'm able to really have that empathy and that compassion without taking it on. And then I'm just really careful about whenever I meet with people, just closing all the doorways and pathways afterwards and coming into my own energy. My energy will open at night sometimes, and things will come in. My daughter is traveling. She's in Southeast Asia backpacking for 4 months, and I opened when she was on the plane, and I was kind of offering her some soothing because she doesn't travel well. And then all of a sudden I saw like 500 faces, and I realized I'd opened myself to the entire plane. So it's about knowing when that happens, how to shut it down. And I've had some really good teachers that have helped me to know that it's not hard to shut it down. And there's just some easy techniques that I use to keep myself grounded and in my own energy.
The one thing about this life is that if you've been around long enough, you benefit by all the wisdom you gain over time. It's almost kind of the Benjamin Buttons thing. It would be great if we could live backwards. But let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 16-year-old version of you. You could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've accumulated. What advice would you impart on that younger version of you?
I would just say stop being so hard on yourself. You're okay. You're going to be okay, and you're going to grow and live an incredible life. And find a way to get those thoughts of that beating yourself up to just relax sometimes.
So everybody that you've known as a client over the years, they've come to you obviously with serious questions trying to figure things out. Let's say you walk into a room of all of those clients throughout the years and you go up to a podium in front of them and you can tell them one fun thing about you, one fun story, one fun anecdote that would humanize you, that they would see you maybe in a different light. What would you tell that room?
Wow, I that might be something that I need to spend some time with.
Okay.
So something about my business life or personal life.
Well, I mean, kind of like the first show that you saw. That's fun. Those things, you know, like seeing Billy Joel, something along those lines.
I would say musically, something that really changed my life was watching videos of Barbara Streisand and how she creates music, not only with her voice, but also with every single instrument in the orchestra. She can listen to an orchestra and she can hear if one violin is a tiny bit sharp. And just watching her craft the entire performance from beginning to end is kind of like life, how we can zoom out and we can look at the bigger picture and not be so stuck in the moment.
You know, it's interesting of all of the people that I've talked to about Miles Davis, who to me is one of the more intriguing figures in the world of jazz. Everybody talks about how he listened. His ability to listen, which is what you're talking about with Barbara, is so almost preternatural, almost just I don't know, between the nature and nurture, like they're born with this intuitive ability to like decipher things. And it's very interesting, which is a
Hmm.
testament as to how effective they can be as a musician and use their voice.
Right. It's about listening.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned over time as I've gotten older that we should probably do a lot more listening than we should talking.
I always try to remember that I want to listen as intently as I want people to listen to me.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Have you ever had a human design reading?
No.
It's absolutely fascinating because it's like astrology, but it's how you see yourself and then how people see you is like 3 months before you were born.
Yeah.
So when I had a human design reading, it was like it gave me a permission slip to be myself because people would say, "I see you as a big leader, as this big light, as someone here, come here to do great things." And I would say, "I just want to be alone in my closet." And when I had this human design reading, I am a 6'2" leader slash hermit. So
Okay.
I see myself as someone who loves to spend a lot of time alone. I'm very introverted. I need a lot of alone time in order to be out in the world. And people will often say, "What? You're introverted?" I would never know that.
So of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest of healing myself,
Yeah.
of learning how to work with shamanism and integrate all parts of me and come back to who I am so that I can serve others from a place of wholeness.
What do you like the best about living in Canada?
Four seasons. I love the four seasons.
Okay, that's a great answer. Well,
Yeah.
being here in Kansas City, we get the full spectrum of that, so I understand. And as much as I would like to be in the warmth, I wonder sometimes if I don't have that, the whole like slipping into autumn and the slipping into spring right now and all of those things, how much your body gets used to it and you would miss it.
I have an aunt who lives in Phoenix, and I just don't think I could be in the heat and the sun all the time.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been impressive lately. So if anyone has questions, they want to reach out, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
My website is laurieparente.com, and my Instagram is at Laurie Parente. And everything, you can find everything there.
Okay, Laurie, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.